Hurricanes, goat heads. Well, it seems like the Hurricanes are playing the Buffalo Sabres tonight. After 2 days off, they head up to Buffalo to try to get a foothold on the second seed in the East. And do we possibly see some guys coming back to the lineup for Rod Brennanmore's team?
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers. Also do some baseball coverage at Covering the Corner for SB Nation. I'm the co-host of the Surgecast, is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun Tuesday episode for you guys as we get to preview the Hurricanes at the Buffalo Sabres as they go on their Game 3 of their 4-game road trip as they like to bounce back from their losses against the Red Wings and the Bruins. What are the keys to the game for the Hurricanes to get back into the win column and get in a better fight for the second seed in the East? And who are the players to watch in this one? But before we jump into all of that, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONAHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, the Hurricanes, before they left for Buffalo on Monday, did have a practice, and there was some guys that were kind of back in the lineup, which is good to see. So William Carrier, for the first time since Jerry was in a practice with the Canes with a no contact jersey on, so he was back to normal, practice, which is great to see because I know the Hurricanes definitely have missed him, with the fact they had him to a 6-year deal and missed most of the first year since being out since January. Jordan Stahl's also back on lineup after missing a few games, and so was Andrei Svechnikov. Now, after practice, Rod Brennanmore said he's not really sure who is going to be available out of those three, so it'll remain to be seen tonight when they go into the game of if we get all three of them back or a mix of whoever's back in there. It'll definitely be interesting to see. They are still not sure about Jesperi Kotkaniemi, if there's any update on that, or if he'll be ready to go tonight since he did tweak something against the Boston Bruins. So as of now, KK could be missing the game against the Sabres, but we might have some additions back with the captain, Svechin, maybe William Carey, who knows for sure. But in terms of the game overall, the game will be on FanDuel Sports South per usual, 7 p.m. start time. Your 46-24 in Carolina Hurricanes take on the 34-36-6 Buffalo Sabres. Now, their regular season series is tied 1-1. Obviously, with the Hurricanes losing in January 4-2 to the Sabres in Buffalo. But then they came back on Whalers night on February 27th and beating Buffalo 5-2 to snap a not a great run that the Hurricanes run at the time, kind of a good way to end the month on Whalers night, get them their second win of February, and this is the last matchup between both sides. Now, in the last 5 games, who have been, leading the way for both teams in terms of points, goals, and assists? Well, in terms of the Hurricanes, Seth Jarvis, 4 assists and 7 points, which, it's Seth Jarvis. Are we really shocked at this point about how good he's been? But also Jackson Blake with 4 goals. The rookie getting hot right at the right time before the playoffs and, giving a good ending to his rookie season. Already at 30 points, which is awesome and amazing to see. So you're seeing, even with the lull that he had for about 22 games without scoring a goal, he's now really kicked it into high gear at the right time. And it's just, with him being a rookie, first season, still getting used to the league, but obviously he's been playing very, very well as of late. I think he's been playing, even during that goalless run, he was still doing all the right things. It's just, the puck wasn't there to go in the net. But honestly, what a first season for Jackson Blake. And hopefully, with 6 games left, get some more points. Could he get to 40? I don't know, maybe, but even then, upper 30s is still pretty good for your first year, especially when most of the season was kind of playing third, fourth line, and then over the last, couple months, it's been a lot of top 6, mainly top line minutes and power play time. Now for the Sabres, they have been on kind of a run recently. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10. And that's because, well, Alex Tuch, 9 points, Tage Thompson with 7 goals, and J.J. Paterka with 5 assists. So kind of like the three-headed monster of the Buffalo Sabres forward core, especially Tuch and Thompson, they've really been on a run for them. Now, looking at the last 10 games, Hurricanes are 6-4-0. Of course, they did lose those two the back-to-back against Boston and Detroit. But before that, they did win 3 games in a row against Washington, the Islanders, and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, for Buffalo, they're 7-3-0 in their last 10. They're on a 4-game winning streak after beating the Capitals, Ottawa, Tampa, Nashua, and Boston. Before that, they did lose to Philadelphia, but then they also had a 3-game winning streak before that as well, beating Winnipeg, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh. So Buffalo has been getting kind of hot recently. Unfortunately, they're not really going to be making the playoffs, but they're giving their fans some excitement at the very end of the regular season and all of that. So now looking at the tail of the tape, what are we saying about power plays, penalty kills, goals for, goals against, and all that stuff? Well, the Hurricanes power play has gotten really hot recently. They were 27th at one point. Well, now they're 23rd on the power play. So progression. I say if they finish top 20 by the end of the regular season, hey, it's a lot better. At least you saw some regression at the right time, because I've been saying it for a while. If you are good on the road, which the Hurricanes have in the last couple of games, that's something needs to get worked on. But if the power play gets hot at the right time and you're doing well on that going into the playoffs, you have a better chance of scoring very much needed power play goals, especially in a part of the playoffs where it's a lot harder to get them, and they're really going to be key. So 18.9% for the Hurricanes on the power play. Buffalo Sabres are 25th at 18.3%. Now, this is where it's going to get very interesting for the Hurricanes, because while they are 23rd on the power play, they're going against the Sabres' 23rd ranked penalty kill at 76.3%. So if the Hurricanes play this right, if they do get opportunities on the power play, they could take advantage of that. So we'll see how that works out. And on the flip side for them, well, the number one penalty kill in the unit once again, 84.8%. If they keep imposing their will like they have been, this is a good opportunity that even if Buffalo gets some man advantages, that the league's number one penalty kill unit does their job. Now, goals for, goals allowed. And this is where it gets very interesting for Buffalo's side of things. They score on average 3.28 goals per game, which puts them 7th. So they are a top 10 scoring offense. However, they also give up a lot of goals. They give up on average 3.51, which is 29th out of 32. So while Buffalo does score a lot of goals to put them in the top 10, they also are in the bottom 5 of the league, giving up a lot of goals. So what does that mean for the Hurricanes? Well, the Hurricanes are 9th in goals for per game at 3.25 on average. So if they take advantage and do what they did on Whalers night, scoring 5-2, they can come into this one and, we begin 60 minutes of hockey, impose their will. They can really take advantage of a bottom 5 team that allows, like I said, over 3.5 goals a game. This is where they really get take advantage of that, because the Hurricanes do score a lot too. And their advantage for Carolina, outside of giving up 10 goals in the last 2 games, albeit, a lot of things went awry, but overall, they give up 2.7 goals per game, which is 7th in the NHL. So that really gives the Hurricanes a good opportunity to impose their will. Don't let Buffalo score a lot of goals, but, you got the 7th, the team who's 7th in goals for per game is now going up against the team who's 7th in goals allowed per game. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. I think there's going to be a very high octane back and forth type of game. Now, we know Frederick Anderson played against Boston. Now we're going to probably see Pierre Kochetkov in net for the Sabres, and he's actually gotten some new pads, got some new gear. Usually it's been true. He's kind of changed it up a little bit. He's 26, 14, and 3, a 2.57 goals against, an 8.99 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. He has been kind of shelled the last 2 starts that he's had for Carolina, giving up 7 against the Kings, giving up 5 against Detroit. So I know he's kind of going through something right now, but I think this is where a great game for him would be fantastic, where he gets his 27th win of the season, gets him all settled in back right again right before the playoffs. I think this will be a very huge game for Pierre Chekhov to get the good mojo going once again. Now, in terms of Buffalo, I would not be surprised if we see Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in this game, 24, 23, and 4, with 3.23 goals against and an 8.85 save percentage and 2 shutouts. They could go with James Reimer, but I would say UPL might be that guy for the Sabres. Now, we talked about the last 10 games for both teams, potential goalie matchups and all stuff, but what are the keys of the game for the Carolina Hurricanes to get back in the win column against the Sabres? Well, stick around. I'll talk about that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can check all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONAHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONAHL for half off your first year. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now, we talked about the last 10 games for both sides. With Buffalo being 7-3 in their last 10, Carolina 6-4. Talk about goalie matchup, tells the tape. But what are the keys to the game for the Carolina Hurricanes to get back in the win column? Well, obviously, it's easy to say 6 minutes of Canes hockey. Does the 5-1 score really replicate what the Hurricanes did against Boston? No. The third goal was definitely a nail in the coffin for them, but it was it didn't really reflect of how they were playing. It's just Jeremy Swayman decided to be Jeremy Swayman. I will say that, though, their 50-50 battles weren't really the greatest. It's the first 10-15 minutes of both games really could have gone in a better fashion for the Kansas. The guys even said that after the game too. It's just, it didn't really give them a whole lot of, it put them in a hole early. And we all know that the Hurricanes definitely, I wouldn't say struggle, but it's you could definitely see a difference in style of play when either they're tied or up compared to now they're rallying from behind. And it seems like they have a little bit of more of a uphill battle when it's multiple goals and then try to get kick-started at the same time. So this is where you have to play a full 60 minutes. I know they give it every night. It's just the last couple of games, you could definitely see that it took a little while to get going. I think when it comes to this, you don't really want to start faltering at the wrong time going into the playoffs. So I know Buffalo isn't a team that's going to go to the playoffs, but this is where you kind of start really clicking into gear and getting, start racking up some wins right before going into the next phase of this season. So, like I said, it's not a must win. This isn't a must lose. It's just you have to do the job to get going because, like I said, you still have a lot to play for. You still have a chance to go for 50 wins on the season, 100 points again, and you're trying to fight for a second seed in the East. That's definitely a big thing that the Hurricanes need to still keep fighting for. So that's something where, you can't have a 10, 15-minute lull and then try to kick it on later. This is where you really got to get going and really get moving and grooving at the right time for sure. Now, I know it's another cliche, but special teams is going to be a big deal for the Hurricanes because obviously, the penalty kill is still number 1 in the AHL. The power play has gotten better as of late because they were at one point they were 27th, 29th, and now they're back up to 23rd. So there is some progression for the Hurricanes. If they can keep their power play going, that'll be very huge for them because I've said it earlier. You want to have a good power play in the playoffs, and you want to win on the road in the playoffs. Now the Hurricanes are 16, 18, and 3 on the road. If they want to get back to 500 hockey on the road, this game against Buffalo and the game later this week, which we'll do a preview show for, against the Washington Capitals, you have to win these 2 games to at least get you back to 500 before you go on the road next week to finish off the regular season in Montreal and Ottawa. So these 2 games coming up will help you get back to at least 500 hockey. That being said, the power play has to be getting rolling too, and they have been as of late. There was a streak where they had 5 power play goals in 5 games. they didn't really get anything against Boston. But of course, they only had one power play. So what can you do there? But this is where you really have to key in on the power play staying really hot. I mean, the penalty kill is being the penalty kill. Luckily, you're facing a Buffalo Sabres team who's kind of towards the bottom of the league. They're 25th on their power play, but you don't want to give them the opportunity because, like I said, you have Alex Tuck, you got Tage Thompson, you got Paterk, you got all these guys who can do the job on the power play for the Sabres while they are, like I said, 25th. Hurricanes right there at 23rd, so it's almost kind of dead even between these two teams, but for the Canes PK, keep doing their job, and they should be all right. It's the Hurricanes power play that still needs to, like I said, it's gotten better over time, but let's try to keep progressing and at least get into the top 20. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. So we talk about 60 minutes. Don't lull your way into the first 10, 15 minutes of the game because you don't want to be down 2-0 again, and then it's another uphill battle. Like I said, also special teams. I know it's a cliche to talk about every time, but it does matter, especially when you're getting closer to the playoffs. Those are going to matter when it comes to winning games because if your power play isn't going, your postseason is going to be very, very tough because it's a lot harder, because it's a lot more physical and it's a lot harder to score in the playoffs when it comes to certain matchups. Now, what's the next one? Well, it's playing your game. Now, I already talked about, play a full 60 minutes of hockey, but what is play your game? Well, it's don't go backwards in the system of, playing down to an opponent. Because sometimes the Hurricanes, they haven't done it recently, but there's been points in the season where they play a lot farther down to teams that they really shouldn't be playing down to. And nothing against Buffalo. Like I said, they are a team that scores a lot of goals, but they give up a lot as well. But you look at their record, they are a sub 500 team. And, you have lost to them before, which wasn't great. But they did beat them in Whalers Day. But this is where you have to play your style of game. Don't, we saw against Boston, Detroit, they weren't really on it early, didn't really do the things they needed to do. And this is where, if you want to stop a losing streak, this is where you have to get back to the basics once again and play your game and don't play down to the opponent. Impose your will, basically quiet the crowd early, and get back to where you were against Washington when we beat them 5-1. This is a game where you have to go back to fundamentals to play your style and get yourselves ready for the playoffs. Because Buffalo's not going to make the playoffs. The Hurricanes have already clinched, but you still got to be playing your style going in. So this is where it's hey, let's play to where we're supposed to be as a team who's going to go to their 7th straight playoff with Rod Brind'Amour as the head coach. Let's play that style of hockey that's gotten us there, and where it's going to be another potential 50-win season, 100 points on the year as well. And you got to get ready because, the playoffs are coming up fast, and you don't want to be just lackadaisical, not really being, fully ready to go when it comes to the playoff time. So this is where it's, play 16 minutes, take advantage of the special teams play, win that battle and stick to your style. Don't fall back on, oh, hey, we're playing Buffalo, let's just be whatever about it. And I was like, every team's going to beat teams across this league. Obviously, we see them because even the teams lower down in the standings do beat the good teams as well. The Blackhawks beat the Avalanche twice this year. So anyone can beat anyone. So for Carolina, if they want to get their road record to back where it needs to be, at least have 500 and be a team that's clicking going into the playoffs, this is where they have to play their game and don't fall into the trap of, oh, it's whoever. We don't have to give 100%, or we don't have to do our style of play the whole time. No, you have to stick through it, and you should be beating teams that you need to beat. So that's what it comes down to for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, we've talked about the keys to the game. Who are the players to watch on both sides? Well, stick around as we'll talk about that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts. Put your post at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates faster. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, well, Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talk about the keys to the game. Who are the players to watch on both sides of the puck? Well, let's look at the Buffalo Sabres. Obviously, like I said, Tage Thompson has been on a run as of late, scoring 7 goals in the last 5 games, and that puts him at 70 points in 70 games on the season, 43 goals, 27 assists. He has struggled over the last couple seasons, but Tage Thompson is why he is who he is and why his stardom shot up really fast over the last couple of years. And you're looking at a season where, yeah, he's a +2, 70 points. Like I said, 43 goals, leads the team, does have 225 shots, which is absolutely crazy to think about. Hey, but it's just Thompson doing what he does best. Over 18 minutes and 47 seconds of ice time for the Sabres. Talked about Alex Tuch, 62 points in 76 games, 33 goals, 29 assists. He's a +15 on the year. Good grief, Alex Tuch. 181 shots, 105 blocks, averaging over 19 minutes and 20 seconds per game. I talk about the three-headed forward monsters. Well, JJ Peterka is that third-headed monster. 61 points in 71 games. He's having a good season for Buffalo, that's for sure. 23 goals, 38 assists, 161 shots, averaging over 18 minutes a game. Now, they did get Josh Norris in a trade with the Ottawa Senators. 35 points in 56 games for the season. Is a -6, but has turned it around with the Buffalo Sabres at least. Now, looking on the defense, obviously the captain, Rasmus Dahlin, 62 points in 67 games. 47 of those are assists. He's a +10, 181 shots, 95 blocks, 90 hits, averaging over 24 minutes a game. Good grief. Rasmus Dahlin is racking up the minutes per game. Now, looking at other defensemen, Owen Power, 21 minutes and 27 seconds, is a -12 with 40 points. Bowen Byram, 37 points, but is a +12 at 22 minutes and 50 seconds per game for Buffalo. Now, on the Hurricanes side of things, obviously Sebastian Aho, 70 points, 42 assists, 28 goals in 75 games, 195 shots, averaging over 20 minutes of ice time. You're definitely looking for Aho to kind of lead the way for the Hurricanes as they want to beat the Sabres and want to see start being hot at the right time for Carolina. Obviously, he's been playing well as of late, but you do want to see Aho being Sebastian Aho, where he's going to take over some games. And this is the run that would be perfect for them to do that. Seth Jarvis, we all know how great he's been this season. 61 points, 30 goals, 31 assists in 69 games. He's almost a point per game guy, but he's eclipsed the 30-goal, 60-point season in back-to-back years. You'd love to see that for him. 192 shots, 90 hits, averaging over 19 minutes and 25 seconds. Seth Jarvis is not afraid to shoot or throw the body. Now, there are some other guys we really want to keep an eye on for this one. We get Andrei Svechnikov back. 45 points in 66 games, 17 minutes and 12 seconds of ice time, 135 hits, 170 shots. If there's someone the Hurricanes really need to get rolling now in the playoffs, it is Andrei Svechnikov. Yes, he's got 19 goals and 45 points. You want to see him get 20 goals at least, but you really want to see him get rolling going into the playoffs because the Hurricanes are known for their depth scoring across the board. Taylor Hall has scored a lot as of late. Logan Stankoven has scored. Jordan Martinook. Jackson Blake has been on fire as of late, scoring goals. He's on 31 points this year, 15 goals, 16 assists. Mark Jankowski, he's been on a tear for the Hurricanes as of late as well. So if there's someone of the Hurricanes really to come and step up for them at the right time, it is Andrei Svechnikov. Like I said, he does have 19 goals, but you really want him to be really clicking now, especially with coming off an injury. Defense, and comes to no surprise, Shane Gostisbehere, 44 points in 67 games, 37 assists. He's been absolutely killing it as of late. Obviously, Jacob Slavin doing Jacob Slavin things, +15. Jalen Chatfield's a +19. So you're seeing a lot of good play from those guys. And I would say keep an eye on the Gostisbehere-Walker pair. because they've been playing very, very well as of late. So those are the two guys you really want to keep an eye on in terms of the defense. So for Carolina, like I said, you got to watch the three-headed forward monster of Tuck, Paterka, and Thompson. They have been playing really well as of late, those three together in terms of points, goals, and assists. And then you also can't overlook Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, and Bowen Byram. They do have some really good defensemen, all good young defensemen on their side, on that side of the puck as well. So there's going to be a lot of guys on Buffalo that can do the job. They are struggling. They've played really well as of late, but it's another season where there was a lot of upside, but it just hasn't really gone their way. But they're still a team that's fighting for a lot at the end of the season. So the Hurricanes will have to make sure to shut those guys down. On the flip side, you got to have Sebastian Aho do Sebastian Aho things. Basically turn it on and start dominating games, especially with the playoffs coming up. Seth Jarvis has been playing very well. Obviously, Seth Jarvis, you don't really have to worry about him. He's always full go 100% every game, which I'm not saying all the other guys aren't, but Seth Jarvis will make an impact regardless of whatever game it is. Andrei Svechnikov might be back for the Hurricanes. We're not really sure, what the lines are going to be like tonight, but they're getting scoring from everywhere. Taylor Hall scoring, Jankowski, Stankoven, the Jordans, Seth, Jackson Blake, Sebastian. But if you're looking at Andrei Svechnikov, he's the one guy that it seems like all season Rod has been trying to find a way to really get him going. Like I said, yes, he has 19 goals. Yes, he's got over 40 points, but you want to see Andrei Svechnikov impose his will, impose his physicality, his style of play on other teams as well, and scoring goals. So if he is back, great. If not, well, it's another game lost of not having Andrei Svechnikov. But when you're going into the playoffs, you really got to hope that he's fully running on all cylinders, because the scoring is everywhere up and down the lineup, but that's another guy you really are hoping has a really impactful playoff and be that guy that could potentially take over games, or at least is a very noticeable addition and impact player on said game as well. So it should be very interesting for the Hurricanes. Like I said, they've lost the last two against Detroit and Boston. They're still in a fight for the second seed in the East, of course, with Toronto, Tampa, Florida a little bit. They've been kind of falling off a little bit, and even the Ottawa Senators are kind of surging. So this is a type of game where it's, like I said, it's not a must-win. It's not really you can't lose, but this is where if you want to stop a skid, if you really want to get back, into at least 500 on the road, this is the first game of that said chance to get back to 500 on the road, get the special teams going still. They're doing great, but keep building on it, because those are the two things that are really going to be impactful for the Hurricanes going into the playoffs, because you all know how tough that's going to be. Is winning on the road, it is your power play going. And like I said, that's something you really need to focus on. And, they want to get their 50th win. They do want to get their 100 points, and this is where you stop that skid, get back in the win column, getting another winning streak going, and then being hot at the right time for when the playoffs start, because you want to go for your 7th straight first round win. You want to have a deep playoff run and potentially be that team where everyone's like, okay, if the Hurricanes are fully going at 100%, no issues. If we're looking at a team that went 14-4 to start the season, or even the team that won 11 games in March, this is the time to start really rolling into that, especially going into the playoffs, because then that puts a lot of fear in other teams going, okay, if the Hurricanes are full Category 5 mode, this could be an issue. So this is the stretch run of 6 games left to where this could really be setting themselves up to have a very strong end of the regular season and a great start to the playoffs. But guys, there will be a Tuesday edition of Watch the Hurricanes. For your second, watch check out NHL game night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin, where I do have link trees in my bios, where you can check out all my Carolina Hurricanes articles at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my baseball coverage, well, it's coveringthecorner.com for SB Nation's website talking about the Cleveland Guardians. I'm also, if you want to check out my other podcasts, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Make sure to follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up so let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all other Canucks to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Tuesday and have fun watching your Carolina Hurricanes take on the Buffalo Sabres. And until next time, as always, let's go Kings.